talking about the Zeiss Batis 85mm 1.8 lens today. It's been around for a while, but it went on sale recently, so I thought we'd do a freshen up review of this and see if it's still worth the price. So let's roll the intro and we'll get into it. First of all, welcome. I'm James Lavish, and for all of you new subscribers, a huge thank you. I'm super excited about the community of photographers we're building here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting the button below. We'd love to have you join. It'd be super appreciated. So there's a whole bunch of 85mm lenses for Sony now. You've got the 85mm 1.4 G Master. It's much larger. It's got arguably the best bokeh of the group, but it's got slower autofocus and it's way more expensive than the other ones. Then you've got Sony's own 85mm 1.8 lens, and it's about the same size as the Batis, and though it doesn't have image stabilization or weather sealing, it's super sharp and a great deal. You also have Samyang's 85mm 1.4 lens, a little bit more expensive than the Sony 1.8, but it falls just short in performance of the other lenses. Then you've got the Sigma 85mm 1.4 art lens, and it's a little bit more expensive than the Batis, and though it performs extremely well, it's a huge lens, and unless you're doing mostly work in the studio, I wouldn't recommend having this one in your bag. But the one we're focused on today is the Zeiss Batis 85mm 1.8 lens, and since it recently went on sale, the question is, does it offer the right balance of cost and features to make it worth the price that it's still listed for? But we're gonna go through that in detail, and by the end of this video, you'll know whether or not it's right for you. Also, there's just an announcement that could impact your decision, so stick around to the end, we'll talk about that too. First of all, the looks of this lens are just awesome. It's got a sleek design and a minimalist approach that you find with the Batis series. It's smaller than the G Master, way smaller than the Sigma, and about the same size as Sony 1.8 lens. The focusing ring is rubber and it has a nice feel to it, and it's pretty smooth. I actually really like these on the Batis series. Some unique features are this LCD screen that shows the distance from the subject that's in focus, as well as a depth of field calculation. And though you may not find it that useful for everyday work, it can come in pretty handy for video or maybe product work where you need specific calculations of depth of field and distance from the subject. Per usual, there are no buttons or knobs, and I actually prefer lenses without an aperture ring for photography. That said, I'd rather have the programmable button on the side like the Sony native lens than the LCD screen, which, like I said, I rarely use. It's got a 67mm filter thread, which makes it pretty useful if you have larger filters already and you can just buy a step-up ring and use those without having to buy new filters. As you can see, it has a gasket here, which is the weather sealing, and that's pretty useful if you're doing work outside the studio and on location, especially if it's someplace dusty or damp. And finally, it's got that Zeiss micro contrast technology, which produces that signature punchy Zeiss image and color rendition. As far as price, well, you get the Batis for about $1,000 now with the deals going on, which puts it squarely between the G Master at $1,800 and the Sony FE 1.8 at about $550 or $600. Now onto the performance and some images, but first, I personally love the 85mm for portraits. But what about you? What's your favorite focal length? 70, 50, 135? Put in the comments below and tell me what you like taking portraits with. Also, if you're considering the Sony 90mm G macro lens for both portraits and macro, I recently did a video and a full review on that. I'll leave in the comments below and you can check it out. Okay, now for the performance. First of all, the sharpness is absolutely top notch and puts it with the best of the group, both Sonys and the Sigma. The autofocus is also top notch, and I actually found the Zeiss Batis to perform even better than the Sony native lenses. As far as the depth of field and the bokeh, the Batis blurs the background beautifully as you would expect with the Zeiss, and it's got a smooth fall off of focus as you can see here. It also blurs out distractions nicely as you can see in this photo with that busy wall behind my wife. As we stop down to 1.8, that just melts away and becomes a nice blurred background. As far as light rendering and bokeh balls of light, I found that the Zeiss is quite pleasing, and though it's not the G Master level, the balls of light are pretty circular right in the middle of the frame, though they do fall off to cat eyes as you get closer to the edge. And that may or may not bother you, and it's a matter of preference. The focusing distance is listed at 2.6 feet, and though I've never had a problem with it, I wouldn't go as far to say that it can double as a macro lens for detail work or macro work at a wedding, for instance. Now for your decision. Is this lens still worth $1,000 on the market today? I would say for the average photographer, the answer would be be no. Let me explain. First, I bought this lens for reasons particular to my personal shooting style and subject. Specifically, when I'm doing an editorial style shoot on location and I don't want to carry around a bunch of zooms, the Batis lenses are so small and convenient, and I want consistent color rendering and contrast even when I'm switching lenses from one focal length to another. Also, often being on location, having that weather sealing is a plus for me. But for you, the question is, what type of work are you really going to do, and is it worth the extra few $100s for the Batis over the Sony FE lens? I mean, just being honest, I think that lens is absolutely the best price of the whole bunch right now, especially because it's so super sharp, it's very quick autofocus, it's light, it's got the programmable button on the side. It's just all around an awesome lens for the price. Now, before you run out and buy the Sony though, there is something else we have to talk about. Tokina of Japan just announced that they're jumping full force into the Sony lineup of lenses. And the first lens they're coming to market with is the ATX-M 85mm FE 1.8 lens for the E-mount next month. The price point is $500, and I'm set to get my hands on an early copy, and I'll be doing a review on that in the next few weeks. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified when that comes out. Okay, I hope that helped and you feel a little bit more informed with all the 85mm lenses out there. And if you feel like it did, please hit that like button, as that really does help. And be sure you hit that subscribe button before you go. And I'll see you in the next video.